It's your verdict. Give us the answer.
There were three choices. I could have gone into business of my maternal grandfather, and that was stevedoring, the Dubashi stevedoring,
Right.
very prosperous. But somehow the world of trade and commerce didn't appeal to me in the ways that are usually employed. Government service, oh my God, temperamentally totally unsuited. Then what else? Profession? Well, I suppose having done BA Economics, BA Bachelor of Arts in Economics, and having a little facility with words and a passion for debating and arguing,
Right.
I thought law was the right profession for me.
And what about your early life in Bombay, as I understand? I mean, the school and college and
School, St. Xavier's College, very good experience. First class fathers we had,
right,
Jesuit fathers. Father Bonnet was tremendous in literature.
right,
My love for literature was instilled by him. Then St. Xavier's College. And St. Xavier's College we had Father Dure, what a big personality, Luxembourg. He would take history, next class would be Latin, and the other class would be some other subject. Very versatile, tremendous.
is that where you've got your versatility from? I mean,
I don't know.
with your love for jazz and so many other things.
Versatility, I mean his range of subjects.
Right,
But of course, whatever love of literature was instilled by Father Bonnet in school was scotched by Father Fell in St. Xavier's College. It was really for sports. So he used to teach us literature. And the lines from Coleridge, Ancient Mariner, water, water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. The whole class was starting. Who's that? Who's that? What was that? Pandemonium, class dismissed. But it was we had very good fathers there, very good. The standard of education at that time, I didn't do law, I didn't do science. Father Santapa, he got a Padma, Prince Bahadur. Father Raphael, who in his spare time would play Emperor Concerto, Beethoven's Emperor Concerto. And very good people there also. The greatest event was intercollegiate cricket match, Elphinstone and Xavier's. It was more exciting even than the pentagulars and the test matches.
so and you went to the government law college in Bombay, which has produced so many great lawyers, including yourself.
But I don't think there were many colleges that time. Government Law College, maybe Kishan Chandra, I'm not too sure.
Right.
But that was a leading college, and we had first class part-time professors like Nani Palkhiwala.
Could you tell us something about that? We understood that Mr. Palkhiwala was taking class while you and some other leading lights today were all classmates.
Yes, he took us in, I think, evidence. I think he taught a lot of evidence. And frankly, I used to bunk most of the classes. And we had a restaurant, that's what actually used to go there in the restaurant, then, as usual, chat, do other things. But his class, all the students wanted to be there. His exposition was so clear, and he had a sense of humor. It was very good. Of course, we had Justice Vimadewar also, taking contracts, V.S. Desai, criminal law, very good people. And of course, we had Professor Tope. Now, Tope was a bit sort of, not arrogant, but sort of little very self-important. So he'd say, suppose I'm the president, and I ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, you to do this, what will you say? And someone said, Tope, go home. You see, that was the sort of thing we had. But we worked hard, we fooled, but we worked hard and got results.
And whose chambers did you feel like
So
joining?
Jamshedji Kanka. That was one of the greatest chambers. The people that chamber has produced, Sidwai, Palkhiwala, Kola, Baba, Marazban Misri, Farinariman, myself were all there.
And what was your experience in those chambers like?
A great experience.
Could you describe something about it? What was it like?
Well, experience meaning, it was a chamber maybe a little bigger than this. Baba at the table, we used to share a chair. Farin and I would share a chair. And others would come to Jamshedji Kanka, and there he would be also giving the advice. It was something, I tell you, the whole thing, the legal talent, part of the legal talent of Bombay was in that chamber. With Sidwai and Park, of course, thereafter they had their own chambers, but in the beginning. And it was really very exciting. And Sir Jamshedji was an extraordinary personality. Unfortunately, very little is known of him. He never wrote anything. Tall, towering personality, and tremendous memory. So people would sometimes come, even senior counsel, and say, Jamshedji, You know that a partnership, I remember something about partnership, relief, what happens, the solution, account is there. Look up to Bombay or reporter, you'll get it there. Tremendous.
That is.
He was priest, you see. In Parsi, priests will be, those who go into priesthood in the beginning, they have to memorize things.
Right.
That's one of the things which made his memory very good. My memory was very good because I remember the numbers of the jazz records and also the horses. I was very keen on my resources.
Right. You own racehorses, sir?
Yes. My father owned, and thereafter, of course, I sold them. And I led in horse at the age of 13 and 15.
Really?
And when I led my first horse in the age of 13, someone played such a nasty practical joke. He says, people under 18 are not supposed to come to race course. There's an objection lodged, and this horse will be disqualified. Oh, Bapre, I thought, what face when I showed to my dad.
Right.
But that was, I had my string till when? Then I think 53, 54. Because once I started practice, began practice, and as you know, law is a jealous mistress.
Right.
And then Kundet was expensive also at that time.
Right.
But otherwise, my horses raised in Bombay, Pune, Secunderabad, Bangalore, Mysore, Madras, Colombo.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huge fleet.
And
So,
also Colombo, yeah.
so and how was it starting off in the profession? Was it difficult? I know it's very different in those years and now, but was it difficult as a young lawyer just starting off?
Difficult, but as I said, to have no godfather, some Gagrat company solicitor, old man Rostam Gagrat, he was good. He liked to encourage juniors. He's the one who did Palkiwala very much in the early stages.
Right.
And there were others. It all depends on opportunity, Gopal. Once you catch the eye, once you get a chance of arguing. So when our immediate senior was K.H. Baba, brother of Kuwaji Baba, was interim commerce minister in the interim government. Whenever he was busy and the clerk, solicitor's clerk or someone was taken to answer, the gentleman will say nothing of the kind, will argue. But if you take that opportunity and argue, because that's the whole thing, that's how you are really, you make yourself known, you make yourself heard, then you are recognized that way. But it was difficult in the sense that briefs didn't come rolling, but I didn't have a long waiting period, I must say, I must confess.
Right.
It's not that I was really worried about where will I get the next brief. They came, and at that time, the briefs which I handled, the cases which I handled, were under Land Acquisition Act, a lot of litigation there, and Evacuate Property Act.
Right.
There was a lot of that. And that, of course, once you start arguing and getting on, and that's fine. But we had great judges there. Chagla, Gajendra Gatkar, Tendolkar, then also the later Lord Tarkunde, K.T. Desai, V.S. Desai, very, very good judges.
And they would encourage juniors arguing with
Depends,
both
not all of them. Chagla would.
Right.
And Chagla wouldn't let her senior bully her junior.
Right.
They'll stop that.
But do you see that that system still existing in India, in the Supreme Court, for example? Do you see juniors still being allowed to hold their own too much?
Well, I know that Bhagwati encouraged juniors, so did Chandrachud. Maybe our judges also, in a way, they do, but the trouble is, why don't they stop the senior counsel from interrupting, trying to do that? Some judges do. I know this Kapadia is very good to juniors, especially when the senior is pitted against him.
Right.
He tries to do that. He accommodates him, so to speak.
Right.
But people don't take a chance in Supreme Court with juniors. High Court is a different thing, it's the final court of the land. And your juniors have to sometimes perforce argue when the seniors let them down, even when they don't come on the second call.
Right.
But another thing, let me tell you about the Bombay High Court, that there's a tremendous cosmopolitan sort of a thing. We all mixed very well. We didn't know any communal divide at all. We all together, all joked together, ate together, fooled together, and that was very nice. But then the real watershed in my life happened when the emergency was imposed.
Right.
That is when I started taking cases of detainees, and especially victims of press censorship. And you know, it was such an atmosphere that many people gave good excuses to avoid such matters. They were supposed to be inconvenient briefs. You succeed against the government, you may be a marked man.
Right.
But there's not so much in Bombay so much as in Delhi. When Kuldeep Nar was detained, and his father-in-law, Bhimsen Satcha. Bhimsen Satcha was our governor of, I think, one of our states, our commissioner to Sri Lanka. For a very, very dignified letter of protest, they wrote to Mrs. Gandhi. Okay, we find people can't speak without looking behind the shoulders, and this atmosphere, suffocation of this. This is not what should be. All of them were arrested, put under Misa. Terrible. I've got that letter. It's not it should go into literature of protest. So well written, in any case. So then, Rajendra Satcha, Bhimsen Satcha is his father. And someone says, there is no one, will you come? I go, yes, what's the matter? So here people started giving excuses, no, I'm busy here, I'm this, that, rest of it. I said, no, I'm not worried. So I came, Taskunde was there. Taskunde was a great fighter for civil liberties. And we had an excellent judge, bench, Rangarajan.
Right.
Very bold. And there's of course another person, Agarwal, but Rangarajan, very bold, very knowledgeable. And you know what they tried to do? They knew that the judgment was going to be against them. You can make up from the tent of observation and all. So the government council came and said, you have to withdraw the order. I said, sorry, the public law matter, you may withdraw the order, but we'll proceed to judgment. And Rangarajan had to pay the price. The vindictive Mrs. Gandhi transferred him to Assam. But he was not unhappy. He said, I got a lot of time here, not much work, so I'm reading Indian philosophy.
Right.
So he took it in his stride, he didn't complain.
But do you think that this might have had something indirectly to do with Keshav Nanda, where you yourself appeared?
Well, Keshav Nanda was very different. That was the basic feature of the Constitution.
Right.
There is a way they were bringing in amendments to the Constitution. Right. That was up to you mean during the emergency.
But could it be argued that because Keshav Nanda's, the attempt to overrule Keshav Nanda by a concurrent bench later failed, Indira Gandhi found herself with her back to the wall after the Justice Sinha's judgment in Allahabad. And I think the Supreme Court had a large role to play with maybe why the emergency came about. Could we say that?
Well, I don't know why the Supreme Court had a role to play. I wouldn't say they thought anyone had a role to play. It was the brave judge of the Allahabad High Court who invalidated Mrs. Gandhi's election. But that was not that. That was a political decision. And she was, frankly, I think, ill-advised by her coterie.
Right.
Or imposition of emergency, and the way the press was censored. I've never seen such virulent censorship. Public sector undertakings are not performing well. Cut. And things like that. Absurd reminders. And thereafter, of course, what happened, and the most greatest disappointment was the Supreme Court judgment in ADM Jabalpur, where they held that even a modified order of detention cannot be challenged. That was a great blow. We had taken the Bhagwati and Chandrachud for granted in the sense we thought that these two can never. Other two, we said lost. Ray and Beg, we said no point. So we are all concentrating on Khanna. I hope Khanna doesn't decide against us. We must concentrate on Khanna. So it will be 3 and 2. But turned out to be very different.
He was the only one who...
Yes, a very bold dissenter.
Right. Could you tell us something about your appearance before 13 judges? What it was like?
I didn't myself. I argued for only half an hour.
Right.
45 minutes.
Right.
Because Panthea done the main argument. That was also because of the indulgence case. Hegde was very kind to me throughout, Justice Hegde.
Right.
And Palek others knew. I said I won't take more than half an hour. Because when councils are half an hour, they take double or something, it's more. But otherwise, the main argument was done by Palke about, oh my God, I had to be here even during the weekends.
Oh.
So he said, go to the Constituent Assembly debates.
Right.
He'd go to Bombay and come back, so he had to keep everything ready. Constituent Assembly debates, various other judgments from other jurisdictions. Uska, you know, cyclostat karo, keep everything ready. So that was really I've never had such an experience as Keshav and Bhaskar.
How was that shift, sir? Because immediately after the emergency, you came here and took office as...
No, after emergency, I was offered the post of additional solicitor.
Yes, but how was that shift from Bombay to Delhi? I mean, was it
Well, I was not unfamiliar with Delhi in the sense I'd appeared in the Supreme Court quite often.
Right.
And of course, in a sense that friends and others were there in Bombay, so that makes a difference. And when I came here in 77, yeah, that's when I suppose the elections held and Mrs. Gandhi was thrown out. First Janata government was 77.
Yes.
You know, Delhi, Defense College, there were hardly 5 cars. Vasant Vihar was an unsafe place to go after 8 o'clock. No one went there. And Mr. Tarkunde's clerk who had property in Vasant Vihar and his richer than Tarkunde and myself. They just had to throw away prices. But what I'm trying to say, but thereafter, very few cultural events, musical events also. Now it's very different. Now one has to choose. Look at the events at IIC, look at the events at Habitat Center, other places. Will I go to this piano recital? Will I go to this debate or seminar on this or a book release? And frankly, I got to know some very good few friends here in Delhi, like-minded, fond of literature, fond of other things of the mind, music. And then naturally I sort of liked it because I didn't share this Bombay person, the superiority complex. That Delhi is a village. And they've got this stupid idea.
And this is what made you start Jazz Capital?
No. Jazz, so we had a magazine called Blue Rhythm in Bombay.
Okay.
And the Love for Jazz was in Bombay in 1944. Then I started taking piano lessons. Here, Capital Jazz, before that we called it Jazz India,
Right.
Delhi.
Right.
So there was Jazz India, Bombay.
Right.
And the great artists, the first yatra, one of the greatest, Sonny Rollins, Clark Terry, was in 1978 in Bombay.
Right.
Then Delhi started, I think, 84, when we arranged that the musicians should come here also from Bombay. We rotate, and then we had them at Ashoka, Basant Bihar, many other places, open air, sometimes in City Fort and other places. But Love for Jazz was not from Delhi at all, on the contrary. There were more musicians, jazz musicians I knew in Bombay at that time. Because many of them emigrated. Some went to Australia, some to England, some to Canada. And of course, some passed away.
But all this started with a Benny Goodman record that was given to you by mistake.
Yeah, that was the first introduction, yeah.
Right.
That was a good accident.
Right.
But at that time, there was a radio from Colombo called Radio SIAC, Southeast Asia Command or something. Played very good music, so familiarized with jazz. And there was Voice of America. And the compere was a man called Willis Conover, who had a tremendous voice and fine knowledge of jazz. Excellent. And he's the one who compared the first jazz yatra.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, I told him to Willis, why don't you take some of Shakespeare's sonnets? I wanted to record something about literature. He wasn't too sure, I didn't get around it, but then poor fellow, he died. Yeah.
Oh.
But he was excellent, so.
You mentioned a few lawyers that left an impression on you. When you look back and you look around you today, what would you say about some of the female lawyers? Who would you recognize?
Now, but in Bombay.
In Bombay, here, in the past,
Bombay
today?
at that time, a lady called Treni Ponda was very good,
Okay.
especially in criminal matters. Here, of course, there are those, Indira Jaising. She appears, Kamini Jaiswal. Actually, these people don't appear, but Pallavi Shroff, now she just sits in the office. When she was young, she used to argue well, and so did Tarkunda's daughter, Usmani Kananjawala. The other, Shyamlal Pappu was good at one stage, but she's not the best of health now. And please, yeah, don't forget any ladies, I'll get frowns from them later. See, I haven't forgotten any names, I haven't got big backs. So.
You'll get calls later on then. And what do you think has been difficult for female lawyers as opposed to maybe the male lawyers?
Well, quite frankly, female lawyers in the Supreme Court are client will be very, very reluctant to read because that's the last court. He doesn't want to take a chance unless she's someone who's really established herself.
Right.
And the misconception or the mentality that females will not be able to deliver the goods, they're not as good as men, which is of course all nonsensical. In fact, I find them very hardworking, they're better prepared and they're more conscientious. But litigant का mind में ऐसा है ना, but unfortunately that's the thing. She won't carry weight with the court. She won't be there. Suppose there's a strong judge, she may not be able to answer back. Things like that. Of course, it's another lady, I must say, is Meenakshi Arora. She does very good work.
Okay.
She's very good. When I was Attorney General, I used to give her certain public interest litigations. Because I said, now you see both sides of the picture. She always used to be for the petitioner. Now I see the difficulty of the administration. Very balanced, very good. Very good.
And the other thing is, I know you're very
I'm
heavily.
sorry, I forgot one very excellent, Hindu Malhotra.
Yeah.
She's our senior, is good, argues well. And argues in the sense that whenever she is my opponent, I feel that I have to really meet a strong opponent. Sorry, you were saying something?
I was saying that I know you're very heavily involved with human rights. And what do you think the state of human rights is today for different groups? It's a very general question, but more in terms of, say, disabled people. The UN Convention just came out for their human rights. What do you think the future of that is in India, especially?
Consciousness is now naturally increasing. Some time back, the rights of disabled people would have sounded a very strange thing. Now it's no longer there. In the Supreme Court is one or two cases where it appeared about people having some facilities to go to the airport or to go to the aeroplane, and others have intervened. But the whole question is human rights. We have so many covenants, we have declaration documents. Main difficulty is the effective enforcement. And then the only effective enforcements are the courts. High Court and the Supreme Court, and that also much depends upon the bench, the composition of the bench, the outlook of the judge, the judicial philosophy of the judge concerned. But I must say one good institution has been the National Human Rights Commission. When Justice Verma was there, it was at its height. Very strong. But it happens, I do not to make any comparison, but it's an independent commission. That's the main thing. It's not a sarkari body. It pulls up government, and it has on many occasions when it was so warranted. And that's what it does. But what I feel is there are too many human rights organizations also. I think there should be some focus on certain things. And if you ask me, the one field which really requires more attention and more is socio-economic rights. You see, that is very important. There is no inherent conflict between the two rights. There's no question of priority. After the Vienna Declaration, they're all interdependent, they're all equal. But the thing is, in actual practice, if you say, shall we build 2 bridges or 1 television station, the priority will be build bridges or roads or hospitals. And there the biggest problem about enforcement of social economic rights which are granted by various statutes, legislation, is corruption. The benefit never goes down to the people for whom this social welfare legislation is enacted. And that's one thing I tell you, I don't know when are we going to get rid of the scourge that has to be done. It really wipes out all the benefits. And the thing is, I've always mentioned that, okay, putting the fellow in jail after a fair trial won't have any deterrent effect. Food will come from his home. He'll have all the luxuries which he has to have at home, but the jailer will be bribed, he'll have everything. His wife and daughter and daughter-in-law will still go abroad, will go to Paris, and maybe all can do the shopping. I've said, I don't know whether the law is there, please seize and confiscate the proceeds, the fruits of corruption. That's the thing, that is what will pinch. In Australia, there is some law, Australian Law Commission has thought about it. I think our Law Commission also thought about it. It is there to some extent, because then he must not be permitted to use the fruits of his corrupt deeds. That is where it will pinch. Sending him in jail, I don't think there's much of a difference, knowing how jail administration is run. And that is, to my mind, something which has to be done seriously. Why is the Lokpal bill enacted? I'm writing in my columns, also once spoken to the Prime Minister. Lokpal legislation has been hanging fast since 77. But what's the difficulty? One time there was some difference of opinion whether the Prime Minister's office should be included, not included. Not because the Prime Minister's office is above, but because some decision of the Lokpal may unsettle the particular ministry at the time. But all those difficulties can be sorted out, but surely you must have this. That is where you can root out corruption in high places.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but our viewers might want to know a little more about the Lokpal bill. I mean, what would do?
Lokpal is a body, it's like ombudsman in other countries. It's an authority to deal with corruption in high places. Not police inspector taking 50 rupees for you and letting you go. In high places, grand corruption, if you may say. And for that purpose, ministers would be under the jurisdiction of the Lokpal. So that is what is important. And most important is when you have the institution, is it going to be a one man, one person, or three? That's a matter of debate, one or three. But whoever you have, there must be people of known independence and integrity. Otherwise, the whole institution will not command any credibility, may not be effective.
Sir, recently Justice J.S. Verma had written about the judges' assets controversy, and he had been critical of the current Advocate General. And you have been in government service previously.
Current Attorney General.
Attorney General, sorry. And
I haven't read that article. I must read it. It came yesterday, I believe?
yes, yesterday.
I see. You
Yesterday.
tell me?
Yeah,
Hmm.
what he has said was the current Attorney General should have refused the brief of the Chief Justice of India. And he had made references to previous Attorney Generals who had behaved similarly when briefs were given to them from the government.
No, but that's. But I know this Attorney General. He's a fine person. Maybe he has his own views about it. And if others have written, I have in one or two occasions because I said I won't be able to argue this. If you want me to insist in arguing, I'll argue for 5 minutes and concede. They say, no, that's a different matter. But here, I don't think, I suppose what he must have meant is the Attorney General said that we are going to appeal or something. That's what he said. He shouldn't have said, they shouldn't accept it. But that's his view, that's okay. In a democracy, we can do it. Justice Verma otherwise is a person whom we respect, and I'm sure the Attorney General hasn't taken it ill. But now that you mentioned it, I'll read it after my glasses come back.
Sir, any general opinions that you might have on the entry of foreign law firms in India?
Look, I'm not at all against it, provided two conditions. They must be subject to the discipline of our Bar Council. And there should be reciprocity. There has to be reciprocity. I really believe that much of the opposition is afraid of competition. The way they prepare the briefs, the way they work, the service they give to the clients, I've seen it, really far, far superior to what I get, even in the Supreme Court. There are, of course, exceptions, no question about it. But then you stand on your own. It's more I don't think there's really, subject to these two conditions, of course.
You mentioned the discipline of the Bar Council.
I know, but I know the next question would be there.
You led right into it, though. So what do you think
Bar
of
Council,
the...
you see, we elect people. That's the whole problem. We've got to see the right person is elected. Some chairman of the Bar Council have been very good. Some members have been good. But why did you Bar Council? Same problem here very often is over the Medical Council. That's what happens. Depends on people who are there. But Bar Council is functioning all right, could do better. Now, what is happening now, I think today, but I think in disciplinary matters, they are not as strict as should be. If a law is negligent, very well, you can take a lenient view. If a law is did something, made a statement not correct. But when there is misappropriation of clients' funds, when he says you are required so much to pay court fees, when there are no court fees are required, that's sort of dishonesty. There's no question of sympathy or leniency. Such people don't deserve to be in the profession. They should be chucked out. They're not saying, so grandfather he was in so-and-so's chamber, and senior. There's no sympathy with such breed of lawyers. If you can call them lawyers, they're a breed of criminals.
I've been reading your articles on the ethics of the legal profession after especially the R.K. Anand judgment. What would you say, can the Bar Council, how can it improve so that it not only works for the welfare of lawyers but also for the discipline of them? What do you see as the steps to be taken?
Steps are when you can't change your election system, you elect the right people to the Bar Council who realize, and which all should realize, that law is not a trade. It's a profession. We call it a noble profession. Now people would laugh if we say noble. But in any case, essentially it's a service-oriented profession. If the aim of any person who meets me is, I say, look, if your aim is to make quick buck in a short time, nothing wrong in that, but don't come in the profession. Go in import-export business, real estate developer, ho jao, wo karo. Don't come with that idea. I'm going to make a fortune soon. That's wrong. Of course, laws don't live on love and fresh air, they'll make money. But the predominant object should not be that. And that unfortunately is now completely lost sight of. Today laws operate on the law of demand and supply. And I'm shocked to find laws charging 15 lakhs for an appearance in Bombay High Court. And to say clients can pay, that's not the right. Clients can pay, but you must have certain standards.
How do lawyers determine their fees? What factors go into the determination of the fees? How is it billed? How is it computed?
No, that we have usual fees. One for SLP, senior lawyers may take 1 lakh. It's a heavy matter, they may charge more for a conference. As far as if I know, if it's a school teacher or a working person, I reduce it substantially. And otherwise, in company matters, there are certain, normally 1 to 152, I don't know. That's generally, I'm going with the standards of Mr. Andhyaraji and others, what we are doing. Others may charge more, it's a different matter. But really, all depends on the work you put in. It's not the size of the brief. The brief may be only 60 pages. The points involved may require study and research, which may take you hours. But I know if I say something, I'll be very unpopular. People may also try to assault me. We must be brought under the Consumer Protection Act. Why should lawyers be exempt? I know what happens. He's busy, he's busy. See, both senior lawyers. What date? No, I'm in Paris, or I'm in Geneva, I'm in London. Okay. But case is called out, let's say on 15th of February. Can we have it in June? बेचारा क्लाइंट बोलना चाहेगा और ऐड करो लेकर सीना काम से बोलो नहीं क्यों? Utter nonsense. This adjournment is the greatest curse, and some of I blame the judges also. Don't give adjournments at the drop of a hat. I'm not saying be unreasonable. And there may be real cases, some accident has happened or some death in the family, close member of the family has passed away. Otherwise, this sort of nonsense, he's busy in this court and he's busy here, busy there. Meaningless, that makes up areas, and there are certain counsel in Delhi high courts who are known as adjournment counsel. Because once you get a stay order, then you get it adjourned and the stay order continues. A client is very happy.
So, but let's take the example of some of the judges we have in the courts today. Many of them, I'm sure, would have at some stage in the past briefed senior counsel like you. Now, when you're appearing before them, wouldn't they find it difficult when an adjournment is being sought for them to be tough and strict with you?
No, should not be tough. They can refuse it with a smile. That's all right. But refuse it unless it's really
genuine. Yeah,
some genuine. Reason. That's what I'm saying. That way we don't feel. Frankly, I don't even remember. Some judges tell me we'll brief too. I said, oh yes, but completely forgotten that. How many years? I just don't remember who briefed you when.
Sir, on a similar topic, this comes into focus, especially when you're talking of the Consumer Protection Act, the distinction between trade and profession, etc. What is your opinion on the regulations for advertising in this profession right now? And where do you see changes coming in? Do you see changes coming in?
I think still the Bar Council has rules are against advertising, if I may say not. Isn't that so?
Yes.
But it's being done. Frankly, I'm not in favor. But you see, make a distinction. A senior counsel will never advertise himself. I think advertisement must be bought by advocates on record. Now, we must be clear about advertisement. Suppose they say, X company specializes in intellectual property matters, and we appear in several matters. So, I mean, to that extent, if they want to tell people that this is what we are specializing, it's a different matter. It's a very thin line. But the other kind of advertisement, come to us, see us, you see how much we can do for you, we can get your case within 6 months, we can get you briefs. To say what you are specializing in, I think that's not objectionable advertisement. Because I want to maybe you say we are income tax practitioners. Oh, very good. But we are sales tax practitioners, so intellectual property right practitioners, that's all. Without sort of encomiums on themselves and favorite all kind of commendable epithets.
Many of our viewers are actually students of law or very young lawyers. Many of them face this difficult question when they're stepping out into the profession, whether they're going to take up litigation, whether they're going to join a bank or a company or join a corporate law firm. Lots of these questions are usually based on the amount of remuneration they will get, their chances in the profession and things like that. Now, over the last few years, I think with the rise of the national law schools, as they are the 5-year courses and their on-campus recruitment programs, there seems to be a tendency for many of them to choose to go to the commercial sphere. I mean, possibly because there's a lack of information about what litigation has in store for them. Questions that lawyers keep asking is, we can't possibly pay these people more than say 10,000 or 12,000 rupees a month, and that's a serious concern. Do you think there's a duty cast on senior counsel and other counsels at the bar to encourage juniors, and how should they go about doing it? Because you've had eminent counsel coming from your chambers, Mr. Salve, Mr. Subramaniam, Mr. Ganesh, all senior counsels of the court today, and doing extremely well. There's only some senior counsel who are able to do that.
Uday Lalit.
Uday Lalit as well. Sorry, I mean, I'm just giving a few examples.
One of my finest juniors.
Right. How does one go around choosing a good senior and...
No, that's a mixed up number of questions.
Yeah.
You see, very often what happens, it depends upon the economic background and the financial resources of a person who's just passed out. In law, there's a waiting period. Some of them may not be able to tide over that. But most of even your middle class families, they may, but may not be able to. Waiting period may not be 6 months, it may be 3 years. So they want to join something where there will be a steady income. They want to join a law firm, it's all right. When they take advantage of National Law School and our other school, Hyderabad, Nalsa, and they join a commercial firm, that I think that all the education, what has been spent on education has been wasted, because first of all, best thing would be for them to appear. They shouldn't be lost to the bar. They're not lost to the bar if they go in a law firm, and they may sometimes appear, they have to litigation in that firm. So that's one reason, the financial resources. The other thing is also, I've always believed, there's an obligation of every senior, especially of those to whom Providence has been kind, to take in his chambers juniors and train them. And see that in the waiting period, they get along. They're also sort of, as you know, you can say very well, you can be briefed in my matter, see that they are, not only they learn, but they also earn reasonably. And thereafter, when they pick up, when they are known, much happens. In a conference, when a junior makes some submissions, solicitors know, clients know, after some time, and then I tell them, why do you want to this? So go to so-and-so. He has done it, sir, can we go to him? He says, please go, get it settled by him. That is how a junior comes. No, what we do is just sitting in the bar library. Bar library, you sit, you gossip. The gossip of the lawyers is worse than even women gossiping about other women. And so this is where they don't also feel frustrated, disappointed, and they get a chance. If they have metal, they can do it. Harish Chandra was waiting hardly 3-4 years, and see how he shot up. Maybe that was Gopal also. Gopal was one of my early juniors.
But today there seem to be so few avenues, so few seniors who seem to offer something like that. So.
That's a shame. I really feel that. But I think there are some. K.K. Venugopal has taken juniors. He's one of those who likes a junior. But one thing, don't just say juniors in the sense, he has come to my chambers, he has to sit here, do this. You must encourage him, make him understand what the problem is, make him think, give him some work. He also knows, yes, the senior thinks there is some worth in him. And also sees, as I said, he learns and also earns. But most important, I think every senior should first instill some very elementary ethical principles in the junior members of the bar. That's very important. That is, not letting down clients, not agreeing to make a statement or agreeing to file an affidavit which you know is not correct. These ethical standards are very important. And the juniors will learn better if they know the senior is meticulous or rather scrupulous about observing these principles.
And so how would you enforce that on a more general level, on the mainstream level? Even seniors enforcing it with their juniors. So I think there's a lack of ethical standards amongst lawyers today.
That is, I think, when you talk of legal education, I think one paper to which I attach very great importance is ethics.
Yes.
There's no question about it.
Is that
and that is something which must also be brought out. Now, for example, the Supreme Court judgment in Anand's case,
yes,
one thing is very clear, they have taken a very serious view of unethical conduct. I said, oh, chalta hai, this happens. No, nothing like that. That's important. I don't know whether, have they enhanced this sentence? No, I don't think so. You should notice on that. Okay. There it's a problem which can't be solved. As I said, there are a number of factors. First, it depends on the person. If a person is really interested in law, if the latest law report he reads with more passion than the latest India Today or Outlook or whatever others, then he won't mind even the waiting period, because heart is there. But sometimes even in such cases, suppose he has to support a family.
Yes.
Some economic reasons may sometimes compel them to really take up some employment. Sometimes they come back. I know some people who after earning something they come back. Well, heart is in the law. But we have too many laws. And if you ask me, one reform which I would make, they never do it, they never agree to it, is that no person, we had a rule, no person will argue in the Supreme Court or address the Supreme Court unless he had 5 or 7 years standing. तो आज बार काउंसिल पास कर गया सर्टिफिकेट आ गया, there you come and address the Supreme Court. Malad, Article 14 is this, Article 19 is this, talking utter rubbish. And that rule, mind you, is still in force in Pakistan. I'm not talking of you thinking, ah, Sorabjee Australian नहीं, Australian की बात नहीं है. In Pakistan, of course they give dispensation. If the law has appeared in the lower court, or otherwise they don't, Partiara got dispensation, because he was in the lower court, of course he can appear, with leave of the Supreme Court. But otherwise, see the arguments, see the level of advocacy. I sometimes can't go out. I get so upset. Is this the kind of advocacy that is being, it's the highest court of the land? Oh, terrible, terrible. But as I said, this won't be, it will be a very anti-populist measure, but it's necessary.
But you mentioned legal education and a focus on ethics. Some of these issues you talk about, the level of advocacy that's, I guess, lacking here, that would also be taken care of by legal education, right from the beginning.
But frankly, legal education, to give only certain points, advocacy ultimately depends on the individual. You can say, do this, do this, do this, don't do this, don't do this, but it's a human being has got it, not a machine. So you don't sort of computer say, okay, we'll press this button and he'll do this, press the other button, he won't argue this. It just gives good guidance. And the best thing is, you must first of all know your judge. How is he at 10:30? How is he at 2 o'clock? There was a judge in Bombay. In Bombay we started at 11 o'clock. High Court said. I knew from experience, never make an ex parte application before him. He's in bad mood. He comes late. At 2:45, after lunch, he's in a different mood. Yes, Mr. Sorabjee, what is the thing? One chap didn't this and he made it 11, dismissed. I said, well, what am I to do? This is a different matter, more or less the same issue. Then I had to say, well, that thing was not pointed out. Yes, what was not pointed out? Tell me. Just give me an instance.
Yes.
When there are certain judges, you know what, you shouldn't argue before them. If he's a pro-labor judge, if you start criticizing the workmen, he'll frown at you. Because after all, judges have their own ideas, their own preconceptions, own predilections. I mean, they're on the bench, they've come in contact, so it's best to know, and don't tap the wrong nerve. That's what I'm saying. And that you'll get by experience. No books will tell you that. A junior may learn seeing how a senior approaches a matter. What does he do? For example, Chief Justice Venkatachala, one of our finest Chief Justices. But he'd get up at 3, 4, at 3 o'clock, 3:15, one could see that he's making effort to keep his eyes open. So then I told him, I said, no, don't start this point. Then just go on rambling about the other point because it's pointless. This is small thing, it's pointless. It won't just register, he's too tired. Next morning is a different matter. So these are very different things which you learn by experience, but in everything, there should be no unfairness, no dishonesty. Don't throw dust in the eye of the court. Of course, advocacy means you certainly emphasize the cases more in your favor, you distinguish others, you try to downplay them, but never play foul with the court, never make a knowingly false statement. So there's one very brilliant judge in Bombay called Justice Tendolkar, he said, then you will be mentally blackballed by the judge. And that should not happen. And judges remember. When some people have done it, taken a... It's a very silly thing. Baba. I don't want to mention a name, but I know one counsel who suppressed a certain fact and got an interim order. Of course, it didn't last for more than 2 months. That fact was remembered by the judges and had difficulty in being appointed, designated as senior. That came much later. But these are this sort of things not done.
What do you think of the idea of continuing legal education for lawyers today?
Absolutely necessary. No
In
question, but I don't know much about cyber law, I'll be quite frank, and the other branches of law, because it goes on, it's developed so much. Actually, for judges is also important, more important. They must have it, because it's a learning process. If anyone thinks he knows all the law, is the biggest ass I'll come across.
So it was a great pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Raj.
much for entertaining us in your beautiful house.
No, your questions are also very incisive and entertaining.
Let your verdict give us the answer.